Good afternoon, everybody. We start our lecture on medical and biological physics. It was a short delay. Excuse for this technical problem. Now everything is right, everything is correct with the techniques, devices, and so on. So let's start this lecture number 4 on medical and biological physics, thermodynamics, general basics, human body homeostasis, thermodynamics aspects. This is just the theme for us to talk about. And look, what are our goals? These are of two. The number one, quantification of the human body homeostasis condition via application of thermodynamics model. And number two, specification of the human cell as open system and membrane transport mechanism maintaining cell steady state equilibrium. Specification of this process. And what are the objectives? First of all, let me pay your attention that we are now at the platform, at the point of view of thermodynamics. And from this point of view, from this platform, let's look at the human's body, inside it, and let's try to apply physics models to describe, to understand, to quantify, to specify processes that are of energy nature. It will be better to say that these processes are of the processes of the transformation of energy from one form into another. So that is why we will need the parameters, nomenclature, and the basic laws of thermodynamics, because just thermodynamics deals with these energy problems. And we want to specify the energy transformation just in the human body. But we should be sure that we will follow correct way. It is correct to apply thermodynamics model to the human body. So that is why it is the task number 3 for us to justify that application of the thermodynamics model to quantitative description of the energy transformations inside the human body. And finally, it will be the review of human cell as open thermodynamics system. And we will deal with the physics of the transport mechanisms across cell membrane. So the plan we will follow is this. Let's start from the number 1. The nomenclature of the parameters and laws of the thermodynamics physics section. First of all, let's define thermodynamics. It is a physics section that studies the laws of converting energy from one form to another. Thermodynamics is a branch of physics which describes the laws governing the process of conversion of work into heat and conversion of heat into work. Thermodynamics generalizes all objects as the thermodynamics model, thermodynamic system. What is this? It is a set of material objects located and closed into the space at some extent. Thermodynamic system is a finite part of the universe. It is a collection of large number of particles. These might be atoms and molecules. These might be larger structures, for example, as organs, if we deal with the human organism, for example. And this collection that is closed into the space may be characterized by certain parameters that might be measured. For example, for the simplest case of the gas that is closed somewhere, for example, into the room where you are now, where I am now, may be characterized as thermodynamic system by the parameters pressure, volume, and temperature. That's all. And by that means, to list this parameter, we determine the thermodynamic system state. A little bit later, it will be more detailed explanation, discussion, how we can quantify this state and what is actually. But let's talk a little. The remaining part of the universe that is outside of the closed system is called surrounding. Both are separated by the boundary. From the very beginning, you can see that the human body very close, or it is absolutely correct to consider the human's body as the thermodynamic system. Because what is this? It is the collection of atoms and molecules. It is the lowest structural level of the human body, and then it goes upward. Nevertheless, the human body maybe is surrounded by the boundary, separating that interior of the body from outside, from the surrounding. And let's take these characteristics as the extent how thermodynamic system close, separated from surrounding. And this is the principle to classify thermodynamic systems. Open systems can exchange both matter and energy with the environment. Look, it is just the human body. Closed systems exchange energy but not matter with the environment. And finally, isolated systems can exchange neither energy nor matter with the environment. And you can see this simple but bright enough illustrations of these three kinds of thermodynamic systems. And let's continue to deal what is just the state of a system. A complete set of all properties of a system under given condition is called state of a system. For example, consider air inside a closed room as system. The air will have definite value of temperature, pressure, volume, internal energy, and so on. A collective set of all those values is called state of a system in that condition. Actually, I can say that I agree in general with this definition, but that parameters may be considered as the characteristics of particular state. They reveal that state, but actually the set of the parameter can't be considered as the state. Can you agree with this? So that is why, look, what is this state? It is the particular property of the system, and this may be expressed, may be quantified, identified by the set of the parameters. So when you talk about the state of your patient, what do you do actually? You don't describe this, oh, how nice is this girl, and so on and so on. No. You measure blood pressure, you measure pulse, you count. So height of the body, mass of the body, and this becomes the set of the parameters revealing, identifying that or another state of your patient. So, and note, the change in any one state variable. So look, they name these variables properties of the system. But as for me, I take property meaning a little bit different. Nevertheless, property, let it be property. So, change in any one state variable is sufficient to change the state of a system. The change of the only temperature of or the only pressure means that the patient state is changed, and you will analyze what you should do in this situation. These variables are related for any system by an equation of state. For example, the equation of state for an ideal gas, gas is given number of moles. If pressure and temperature are known, is this, you can see, this equation of state. When we talk about the human body, it is impossible to write down such simple analytical equation to show how parameters describing, characterizing, quantifying this state are related with one another. So that is why instead of this equation of state, in your practice you'll use the list of the parameters, and you'll compare parameters magnitudes with the standards should be for healthy organism. And after that, you do conclusion about the change or not change state of your patient. For the one more parameter, because now we talk about the energy problem, so that is why we have to say about internal energy. And for most substances, this depends on temperature and power. And at right you can see illustration. What does this mean? To say that two states are different. You can see. Don't use words. Write down the list of the parameters for two states. If parameters are different, states are different as well. When we talk about parameters, it might be we can classify them. Parameters that are dependent on the mass and number of the particles involved into the thermodynamic system, and parameters characterizing the state that are independent on the number of particles or on the mass of the system. And you can see the intensive properties, parameters, system properties whose magnitudes are independent on the total amount. Instead, they are dependent on the concentration of substances. These are intensive properties. Extensive properties whose value depends on the amount of substance present. And you can see these two categories, parameters lists. Extensive, independent on mass, energy, entropy, length, and so on. And the intensive, pressure, specific energy, specific heat, and you can see this example how you can represent the change of the state of the systems by the list of the change of the parameters that are extensive and intensive. So, and let's come back to the core of our topic. It is just energy. And when you list the parameters characterizing the state of the thermodynamic system, you can't avoid the thermodynamic system energy. And this may be represented of two categories of the two parts. First, this is the thermodynamic system energy part that depends on the movement and position of the system as the whole. And the second part is the thermodynamic system internal energy. This energy includes kinetic energies associated with translational, rotational, vibrational motion of the system particles. It also includes the potential energy due to the interactions of the particles with one another. Only changes in internal energy affect the properties of the system. Internal energy is uniquely determined by the microscopic parameters that characterize the state of the thermodynamic system. And now about states and kinds of the thermodynamic systems. Thermodynamics examines isolated thermodynamics systems that are in a state of thermodynamic equilibrium. This means that all observed microscopic processes have ceased in such systems. Thermodynamic equilibrium. This is the state of the isolated thermodynamic system. There is no at all any process at this state. An important feature of the system thermodynamic equilibrium is the same temperature of all its parts. In contrast, open thermodynamic system is maintaining the stationary, steady-state equilibrium at proper condition of the interaction with the surrounding. If the thermodynamic system has been exposed to external influences, it will eventually go to another equilibrium or stationary state. This transition is called thermodynamic process. If the process is slow enough, infinitely slowest, the system is close to equilibrium at any given time. Processes consisting of a sequence of equilibrium states are called quasi-static processes. Look here, you can see illustration of that as the process. It was state number 1, and after that parameters follow the ways of their changes, and system reaches the state number 2. And it is shown for two parameters, A and B, for two properties. You can see that when these two are in progress, the state is changed. And this line that connects, links these 2 points of state number 1 and state. But what is the state number 1? It is the pair of magnitudes of the properties A and B. State number 2 means the pair of magnitudes of properties A and B. and the line showing how these two are changing to be in progress is the process path. Process any change that a system undergoes from one equilibrium state to another is called a process, and the series of states through which a system passes during the process is called the path of the process. I explain you directly what does this mean, the path. It is the pairs of magnitudes of the property A and property B that are in progress when system goes from state number 1 to state number 2. And look, you can see this classification of the possible processes. For example, it might be the simplest thermodynamic system, that is the gas. Isothermal process, no change in temperature. Isobaric process, no change in pressure. Isochoric process, no change in volume. Adiabatic process, no exchange of heat between system and the surrounding. So, and look, we talk about the processes, about the way parameters go when the change of the state of the system is in progress. So that is why let's look more detailed at this as identification of the processes. There are two main types of thermodynamic processes: reversible process and irreversible process. Process in which both the system and its surrounding can be simultaneously returned to their initial state after the process has been completed are called a reversible process. System and surrounding both go to different state, they come back without any change as inside the system as outside the system, so in the surrounding. No change at all. Processes in which the system and its surroundings can't be simultaneously returned to their initial states after the process has been completed are called irreversible. And now we come back to these kinds of the processes, but now let's go further and let's consider more detailed this as the first thermodynamics law concerning the energy transformation. And what is that energy that is of our interest? We deal with thermodynamic systems, so we want to recognize how internal energy may be changed or transformed. The internal energy is essentially defined by the first law of thermodynamics, which states that the energy is conserved. The increase, actually, let me say my word from the beginning. Actually, the first thermodynamics law states how internal energy, what are the only two ways to change the internal energy of thermodynamic system. So, and this is said just here. The increase in internal energy of a closed system is equal to the difference of the heat supplied to the system and the work done by it. So that is why the only two ways to change doesn't matter what it would be. Would it be increase? Would it be decrease of the energy? There are two ways to do work and to supply the system with the energy into the form of the heat. You can see this is shown. The delta U is the change in internal energy of the system during a process. Q is heat added to a system measured in joules. A is the mechanical work done on a system. Actually, it is not the only these two possibilities. System can use its some internal energy to do work under the surrounding, and system can release some energy as the heat into surrounding as well. So these two processes are of two directions of the way. So, and now look, this is the example how the one more characteristic of the thermodynamic system may be derived. Look, thus the heat is given the system and consumed to increase the internal energy and to perform work against external force. It is heat is given, is supplied. System is supplied with the heat, and this leads to change of the internal energy, and system can do work under the surrounding. And let's consider isothermal process. Pressure and temperature of the system is constant. So, and change of the internal energy leads to change of the state of the system, and this change is shown here as the change, look, not difference, but it is the change, final internal energy at the second state. It is not power, it is the index showing the second state, minus internal energy at initial state, state number 1. So, and let's consider the simplest thermodynamic system. It is the gas. Gas does work equals, look, isobar. It is the constant. So, and the work done by the gas equals the product of the pressure and change of the work of the volume of the gas. So you can see first change, the change of the internal energy of the thermodynamic system, the second change, the change of the volume. And after that, this equation, analytical equation, may be rewritten as this. When we substitute these two by their proper equations, and this gives such equation final. Look, the heat, the energy in form of the heat that is system supplied with, changes this parameter of the system, this property of the system equals to internal energy plus product of pressure and volume of the thermodynamic system at particular state. So that is why, look, if it is so, this sum may be interpreted. We can prescribe to this sum the status of the function of the state, because it is characterizing the state number 2, and this is characterizing the state number 1. So that is why we can prescribe this, the status of the state function, and it is the enthalpy function. Enthalpy function. Doesn't matter what is the way system goes to change its state. We can consider the final and initial states, and to say that state is changed, we can say concretely and certainly the enthalpy function changes, and this change is expressed by that means. So that is why not to use this not long, too long, but long enough equation, so we can use its these parameters combination and prescribe to this combination this term as enthalpy function. Look, it is not difficult to understand. It is something like manipulation with the parameters, and this becomes more useful for describing the states and thermodynamic processes. Enthalpy. So the first thermodynamics law, first law, thermodynamics, law of conservation is applied to open system, look, which is in steady state, we will get following equation. The system is said to be in steady state if mass and energy within the system remains constant. So that is why we should analyze that input of this is the work done under system, this is the heat is supplied, system is supplied with, this is mass goes inside, and at the same time it might be and it should be, to maintain the steady state, the release of heat, it is required the work that system does under the surrounding, and mass has to go from this system, and this is just condition to maintain steady state of the open system. So, and this I talk now about maybe expressed analytically by that formula. This is the condition, or the application of the first thermodynamics law for the open system. And at the same time, as I said, it is the condition for that open system to maintain steady state. The above equation is also known as steady flow energy equilibrium. Look, steady flow energy equilibrium. Two opposite directions of the energy flow inside the system and outside it. So, under the first law of thermodynamics, energy can't be created or destroyed. It is passed from one system to another and transforms from one form to another. An important consequence of the first law of thermodynamics is the assertion that it is impossible to create a machine capable of doing useful work without consuming energy from the outside and without any changes within the machine itself. This hypothetical machine was called the perpetuum mobile of the first kind. Any machine can do positive work on external bodies only by receiving a certain amount of heat from the surrounding bodies or by reducing of its internal energy. This second thermodynamics law. The first thermodynamics law states determines how internal energy may be changed by the only two ways, by the only two means, by the doing work and by supply of energy in form of the heat. But the first thermodynamics law doesn't show the direction. It doesn't tell us that not all processes may go in opposite direction. So, but it is of importance because in practice it is very important, in chemistry particularly, to predict the direction of that or another process. So, the second law of thermodynamics has many aspects which at first may appear different in kind from those of conservation of mass and energy principles. Among these aspects are, look, predicting the direction of processes, as I said, establishing conditions for equilibrium, determining the best theoretical performance of cycles, engines, and other devices, evaluating quantitatively the factors that preclude attainment of the best theoretical performance level. This is just the core of the second thermodynamics law, meaning something like this. So look, the second thermodynamics law, Kelvin-Planck statement. There are several second thermodynamics law statements, definition. So let's list some of them. Kelvin-Planck statement. It is impossible to construct a device that operates on a thermodynamic cycle that produces mechanical work while exchanging heat with the only one thermal reservoir. In other words, the second law states that it is impossible to convert heat completely into mechanical work. You can see this illustration showing you these comments this statement, this definition of the second thermodynamics law. The next Gauss statement, it is impossible to construct a device that operates on a thermodynamic cycle whose sole only effect is transfer of heat from lower temperature to higher temperature. In other words, transfer of heat from lower temperature to higher temperature is not possible without providing some energy input. Not possible. And this illustration supports this statement. And let's come back to the state of thermodynamic system. We know already that the internal energy is the function of the state of the system, it doesn't depend on the thermodynamic processes in progress that lead to change of the state of the system. The thermodynamic system internal energy determines particular state without looking back at the way that state was reached by. So, and the next, enthalpy, one more state function we recognize already. And this is a useful function to deal with when we talk about isothermal processes. And one more function, state function, we will discuss, you recognize now. Look, when we talk about any state, we can say about the probability of the thermodynamic to be at this particular state. So that is why the state may be prescribed with the probability the thermodynamic system might be at. And this probability of the state to be prescribed to this state was suggested by the Boltzmann, and this one more state function is the entropy. This function is directly proportional to the natural logarithm of the probability of the state, and proportionality coefficient is the Boltzmann constant. So when we talk about the change of the state, we talk about the change of the entropy, and these two states are of different probabilities for the thermodynamic system to be at. So that is why, one more time, to show the change of the state, we can write down this change of the state function as the entropy, and this equals to this. It is just the probabilities ratio. It is generally true that in any isolated system, the processes progress in the direction of an increase in thermodynamic probability and hence in the entropy. The thermodynamic equilibrium is characterized by the maximum of the thermodynamic probability and by that of the entropy. And look, I don't show you special slide, but let me say my word regarding this as entropy and probability. So it's very good to consider. It's very useful and fruitful. I like this. Look, what do I mean? What is the most probable state? We can say that let's look inside the thermodynamic system, and we can see inside that or another arrangement of the particles of the structures inside the thermodynamic system. And it might be order of different extents. And the ordered arrangements are of much less probability than the disordered arrangements of the structures into thermodynamic system. So that is why we can interpret this situation that the increase of the entropy when system goes from one state into another state means the increase of the disorder into the system. So that is why the entropy is the measure of the disorder of the arrangement of the structures inside the thermodynamic system. And at the same time, what is the disorder? It is the random, chaotic motion of the particles, structures of the system. So that is why, and this is associated with the heat energy. So consequently, when we talk about the supplying the system with the heat, or about releasing the heat energy of that or another reason inside the thermodynamic system, we should pay our attention that this leads to the disorder increase, and consequently this is reflected by the increase of the entropy. So that is why when we want to express the change of the entropy, we can do such thing. We can take the amount of heat that is released into the system and leads to the disorder that is not used to do work by the system. And if it will be for a very small amount of the heat, and when we divide this by the temperature of the system, it will be just the change of the entropy. And this may be considered as one more equation to calculate, not to define, but to calculate the change of the entropy, as the change of the heat released inside the system over temperature of the system, if this release of the heat doesn't lead to the change of the temperature. A little bit later you meet this. But this is a very good idea, I like it. The entropy is the measure of the disorder, because the disorder is the most probable state of the thermodynamic system. Okay, so and now look, the human body structures, life processes are isothermal. That is, the temperature of the structures is the same at the beginning as at the end of the process. It is just the definition of the steady state of the open system, and human body is open system. The state function, look, which can be used in processes at constant volume, isochoric processes, is called the free energy. One more time, look, the specific process is considered isochoric, volume is constant, and one more state function is useful, free energy. And the concept of Gibbs free energy is used to describe isobaric processes at constant pressure. The free energy function is also termed the Helmholts function, and the Gibbs free energy is sometimes, you know already, called the free enthalpy. So, and you can see for the isothermal process, when T is constant, we can write down this equation where you can see this as the entropy state function, internal energy, and free energy or Gibbs free energy, and how this may be interpreted regarding the human's body. Particularly, isothermal processes proceed spontaneously in direction of a decrease in the free energy. The end of the change of state, for example, the equilibrium state, is characterized by the minimum free energy attainable in the given situation. One more interpretation I want to suggest you. Look, this is just the heat, temperature at the isothermal process times the change of the entropy. So, and this product becomes to be the amount of heat that is released into the system. And look, this is the change of the internal energy, and this is subscribed. So, and what does this mean? This energy can be converted into other forms of energy. It is inside the system. And look, if we take this amount of energy from the internal energy, the rest of the internal energy becomes to be free. What does this mean? It is just the part of the internal energy may be converted into other kinds of energy. So that is why we can separate internal energy into two parts. Partly energy, internal energy of the system might be converted into other forms of energy, and partly energy is stored into the system in form of the heat. So, and it is understandable that isothermal processes proceed spontaneously in direction of a decrease in the free energy. So that is why you can see the direction is determined of the thermodynamic process. The next, please, you can see this list of all thermodynamic functions. These are functions of the process, heat and work, only these two, and these are the state functions: internal energy, enthalpy, isothermal processes, very useful, entropy, isothermal process, and Gibbs free energy. And look, this function of this state is the total energy of the system. Kinetic energy, potential energy, internal energy. So in thermodynamics, state function is a property of a system that depends only on the current state of the system, not on the way in which the system acquired that state. A state function describes the equilibrium state of a system. In contrast, process quantities, mechanical work and heat, are not properties of the system. They characterize the process of energy exchange between the system and the surroundings. Therefore, they depend on the path-specific transition of the process. So, and this is the review, summary of that, we talk about internal energy, enthalpy, and when this is useful to take for these situations of that process. And Helmholts function, free energy, Gibbs free energy. You can see when what are the processes. It's very useful to quantify how what are the thermodynamic parameters are useful for that or another processes. And look, let's take these ideas to recognize the thermodynamics aspects and quantification of the human body environment energy exchange. And steady state for the human body is named in proper terms as homeostasis. So, and we pretend to write down analytical equation to show the condition to maintain the human body homeostasis. Human body can be considered as the open thermodynamic system. It is understandable. Human body temperature is normally kept constant by heat transfer to the surrounding. This means heat Q is negative. Human body usually does work on the outside world. This means work is positive. And you can see how internal energy of the human body is changed. So that is why human body loses internal energy. This is the negative. And what does the body require? The energy that should go from inside. And this is just the energy that is supplied by the food. And you can see the heat is released, work is done, energy shouldn't come. Same for the plants. You can see how these forms of energies are converted. Eating increases the internal energy of the body by adding chemical potential energy. Look, we obtain energy from the surrounding in chemical form. Human body metabolism is an oxidation process in which the chemical potential energy of food is released. Cellular respiration allows plant and animal organism to access the energy stored in these three. I can say these are fuels for the human organism: carbohydrates, lipids, and other micromolecules. Proteins may be added through the production. Look, this energy that are released by oxidation from the carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins is not used immediately. It is stored in form, one more time, chemical in its nature. This is the chemical energy of the ATP molecules, that micromolecules. ATP energy is needed to perform cell functions. So, and this is just the store of the energy into the human body that is delivered to the structures to arrange to support their functions. What should be added just here and just now? Look, we talk about first stage as stage of the energy transformation into the human's body. Energy from chemical form of the fuel foods is converted into chemical energy of the ATP molecules. So we deal now with the thermodynamic process of energy exchange. It is the real, so that is why it is irreversible process. What does this mean? This means that the part of the chemical energy of the fuel food is lost. What does this mean? It is released into the heat form, and consequently it leads to the increase of the human body entropy. So, and partly this energy is stored into ATP molecules. First, heat production into the human body because of this transformation of energy to store it. And the second that is not shown here as a slide, but listen to me please. After energy is stored, it is taken by skeletal muscle, nerve cells, and so on to convert it in turn into mechanical, electrical energy. So that is why it is one more kind of the processes of the energy transformations. And one more time we have to say that these processes are irreversible. Consequently, one more time we have to say about the energy release in the form of the heat. It is the second stage of the heat production into the human's body. And these two amount of heats are extra heat that are added to the heat already is into the human body. So it is not necessary for the human body. So these should be released outside to stop the increase of the temperature inside the human body because of these two stages heat production. So that is why there are these, look, 5. It will be better to say about the 4 major processes of the physics nature, releasing the not necessary heat from inside of the human body outside. Human body is open thermodynamic system. It exchanges with the surrounding, with substance, foods, and other products of life and energy. You can see. And look, warm-blooded animals such as mammals control their own temperature by regulating the heat loss from their bodies. The body can lose energy by conduction, convection, radiation, evaporation of perspiration, respiration, breathing out warm air and water vapor and excretion. The relative importance of each depends on the condition of the body and its surrounding. Look, let me pay your attention to this as radiation. The term radiation is another word for electromagnetic waves. In a hot object, the atomic charges oscillate rapidly, sending out energy as electromagnetic waves. These waves travel with the speed of light. The energy carried by the waves depends on the motion of the charges and hence on the temperature. Every object at a non-zero temperature emits some radiation at all wavelengths. The amount of energy radiated at each wavelength depends on the temperature. The wavelengths at which the radiation is most intense is determined by Wien displacement law. Actually, the energy, electromagnetic energy, is of particular spectrum, but the maximum of this spectrum is of certain wavelengths that is determined by the temperature of the surface. So, and look, these four major mechanisms of body energy losses are illustrated here, and let me comment a little. Look, when we talk about radiation, we have to talk about not only the release, emission of that radiation, but we are surrounded by the objects, so that is why they are radiating in turn, and these electromagnetic energies radiated by the objects fall the surface of the human body, and this energy is absorbed. So consequently, when we talk about just the loss of energy, we should take the difference between the energy released that depends on temperature of the surrounding and absorbed, excuse me, it is understandable, the energy. Okay, let's take how much energy is emitted, released by the surface of the human body. We should subscribe this energy that is absorbed by the human body. So that is why it is not the only one way, it is the exchange between the energies of the organism, human body, and the surrounding. And particularly in the conduction, if we talk about radiation, it is the absorption of electromagnetic energy by the surface of the body. When we talk about conduction, look here, this is just collisions between the particles of the air with the surface of the human body. One more time, it is the process of two opposite directions. Particles of the air, for example, give energy to the human surface, and the particle of the surface into this collision gives energy to the particle of the air. One more time, this energy that is lost by conduction, that is released into the surrounding, should be taken out. We should take out some energy that we take from the surrounding. Same for no, nothing more. And look, the evaporation of sweat it doesn't depend on the surrounding temperature, and this mechanism works at any temperature, and this depends on humidity of the air. So that is why, look, all these energy exchanges, energy exchange mechanisms are dependent on the condition of the human body surrounding. Remember, please. And look, human body homeostasis is an open thermodynamic system, steady state equilibrium, steady state equilibrium. There is continuous input and output of energy and matter, but the system remains in a constant state. There are short-term fluctuations, but no long-term changes. So, system state, what does this mean? The set of the parameters, they are more or less constant. The heartbeat rate, the systolic volume, the blood pressure, the temperature, the height for particular time, these are of average magnitudes. Human body, and now please, human body homeostasis condition. If the body temperature is held constant, then the heat losses are related by And look, just this is shown that I said about. It is just that heat of two stages that is released into the human body, while oxidation of the food, while storing of the energy into ATP molecules, and while human body works of many enough kinds inside as physiological function as well as outside of the human body. So this is just thermodynamics equation showing you the condition for the open system steady state. Open system steady state. And what else may be said? This may be interpreted as the kind, as the form of the first thermodynamics law. The energy doesn't disappear, it is converted into another forms, and these forms of energy is shown here, something like this. Or it will be best of all to interpret this equation actually as the human body homeostasis condition. As for the first law, look, this may be interpreted as the equation of the change of the internal energy equals to the energy income minus work done by the system and heat that is released into the system. This is interpretation of the first law. But this is just the human body homeostasis condition. This as homeostasis, it is the special term. Let's say directly, it is the open thermodynamic system steady state. That's all. So, physics principle of diagnosing methods of human body metabolic processes intensity. Metabolic process intensity, what is this? The amount of heat that is released into the human body while a person is active, while functions are activated inside the human body. The more heat is released, so that is why this may be considered as the reaction and revealing the metabolic process intensity. Infrared radiation is emitted by all objects with a temperature above absolute zero according to the Stefan's law. You can see this, how much energy is released when the surface temperature is of this amount. So this is the emissivity, a constant, which depends on the nature of the surface. Human bodies at room temperatures will radiate in the infrared region, for which all human skin has an emissivity of almost 1. Infrared thermography, thermal imaging, and thermal video are examples of infrared imaging science. Thermographic cameras detect infrared radiation in the long infrared wavelength range of the electromagnetic spectrum. You can see what are that wavelengths, and produce images of that radiation called thermograms. The amount of radiation emitted by an object increases with temperature. You can see. Therefore, thermography allows one to see variations in temperature. Alternative medicine practitioners promote its use for breast screening, despite the FDA warning that those who opt for this method instead of mammography may miss the chance to detect cancer at its earliest stage. Look at this block diagram. You can see this is the radiation from the particular space of the surface of the body. It is focused, and after that it is detected, amplified, and you can see the image on the screen. And when you go along or through the surface, you will obtain the different intensities of radiations, and these intensities reflect directly the intensities of the metabolic processes under the skin. So that is why you can get this visual picture, and look how these pictures look like. You can see what is the conductor of the warmth, of the heat that delivers that heat to the skin, and after that the skin is radiating. It is the blood, and you can see when there is abnormality of the blood circulation, there is lack of the heat, there is a lack of radiation, and these look white. There is no radiation, electromagnetic energy. So when the blood circulation is restored, you can see the radiation restore as well, and you can see the uniform picture reflecting the restore the circulation at this part. You can see these the fragment that shows that area of the more intense radiation, and this more intense radiation reflects, shows, reveals, it will be best of all to say, the intense metabolic process that shouldn't be at this place. So consequently, this is the signal to suspect something wrong happening at that place. And you can see that diagnosis that was done in this particular case. Non-invasive diagnosis, and very useful in medical practice. So, and finally, please, several minutes, 10 minutes before we finish, we spent to consider one more example of the open thermodynamic system. Any structure into the human body at any structural level may be considered just as open thermodynamic system. Because any structure is in relation with other, and this combination of the organs, of structures, systems into the human body is exchanged, are exchanging with energy and matter. Particularly, let's look at the cell structural level and recognize the behavior of the cell as thermodynamic open system. And what is the place, what is the arrangement of the cell to interact, to exchange with the energy and matter with the surrounding. It is the membrane of the cell. It is just the boundary surrounding the cell, separating the cell from the surrounding. That is just the place where everything is happening, meaning the exchange processes of matter and energy. And human cell is an open thermodynamic system maintaining steady state equilibrium by energy and substances exchange with surrounding. The cell membrane is selectively permeable to ions and organic molecules and controls the movement of substances in and out of cell. Please pay your attention. The movement of substances across the membrane can be either passive, occurring without the input of cellular energy, or active, requiring the cell to expend energy in transporting that substance. And these structures are shown here. What are these structures? Look, bilipid layer, phospholipids molecules. We will consider this actually more detailed at the tutorial, and nevertheless we come back to the structure of the cell membrane next time. This is the first glance we give to the cell membrane. So, and what do we need now? These structures. These are integral proteins. This micromolecule goes from one side to opposite side of the membrane. This protein that is integral crosses the membrane, and you can see these two kinds we want to let me suggest you to consider now. This kind looks like pore developing the channel, but you can see the channels are selective. These channels allow to go through the only one kind of the small particles that are ions. These for potassium and these for the sodium. And this structure is different. It is not the pore, it is complex complex structure taking the ATP molecules and carrying sodium and potassium ions inside and outside of the cell. It against their concentrations. But these channels are to go to the substance downhill from area of higher concentration to area with lower concentration. So, and look, the sodium-potassium pump is an important ion pump found in the membranes of all cells. The sodium-potassium pump, which is also called sodium-potassium ATPase, taking ATP energy, transport sodium out of a cell while moving potassium into the cell. Sodium-potassium pumps brings 2 potassium ions into the cell while removing 3 sodium ions per 1 ATP molecule consumed. And look how this pump works like. The first cytoplasmic sodium binds to the sodium-potassium pump. The next sodium binding stimulates phosphorylation by ATP and energy released. Potassium is released and sodium sites are receptive again. The cycle repeats. Phosphorylation causes the protein to change its conformation, expelling sodium to the outside. Loss of the phosphate restores the protein's original conformation. Extracellular potassium binds to the protein, triggering release of the phosphate group. So you can see this combination of the conformational change of the protein, sodium-potassium pump configuration, leads to this inactive transport as pumping of the ions inside and outside of the cell. The cell possesses potassium and sodium leakage channels that allow these cations to diffuse down their concentration gradient. The neurons, nerve cells, have far more potassium leakage channels than sodium leakage channels. Therefore, potassium diffuses out of the cell at a much faster rate than sodium leaks in. Because more cations are leaving the cell than are entering, this causes the interior of the cell to be negatively charged relative to the outside of the cell. Chlorine ions tend to accumulate outside of the cell because they are repelled by negatively charged proteins within the cytoplasm. And look, this separation, this combination of the ions leads to the development, just next time we will consider this in details, of two kinds of electric fields inside and outside of the nerve cell, as it is shown here. And two electrodes, look, will be placed outside and inside. The potential difference would be measured, revealing that different electrical field developed. It will be better to say. So you can see exchange with the matter at the cell membrane, at the cell structural level, And glucose is supplied, the cell is supplied with the glucose, and this is the kind of the exchange, and cell excretes wastes from its interior. So this is absolutely certainly the thermodynamic open system. And finally, summary. The physics model, the thermodynamic system, is correctly used to quantify the processes of energy interaction of the human body with the environment. Thermodynamics theory evidently describes, explains the processes of the energy transformations in the human body. Second thermodynamic law states energy obtained from the food partly is lost. Energy that is taken for the physiological functions partly is lost. So these two stages of heat production into the human body requires heat release into the environment. So it is understandable now. And this is supported theoretically, quantitatively by the thermodynamics. Physics methods allow objectively diagnose the intensity of metabolic processes of the human body. So you have to be satisfied by thermodynamics, and when you will look and try to analyze the human's body states, because you can see this is very useful and fruitful to take to deal with at your medical practice. So, look, we finish. Time is over. Bibliography, take it please. And finally, thank everybody. We stop our lecture. Let's continue our working day. Bye.